Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another premiere draft of Theros Beyond Death. This is the set based on Greek mythos with some graveyard synergies, enchantment themes, and some cool stuff. So without further ado, let's look at our pack 1 pick 1 and see what we want to scoop up here. So we've got quite a powerful rare, the Synergies Champion. This shows off some of the enchantment synergies in the format. The Constellation ability allows you to get a benefit every time an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. With this card, it's going to get a +1/+1 counter on it and let us draw a card, a very, very powerful card draw engine for pretty much any deck in this format with the amount of enchantments that are lying around. There are enchantment creatures in the set as well, and plenty of auras that work as removal spells. There's just a lot of very flexible enchantments to make it pretty easy to have a high enchantment count for cards like Synergies Champion. So I'm just going to scoop that up here. Pretty easy. Pack 1, pick 1. For pick 2, we see an excellent white removal spell, Banishing Light. This is 3 mana for an enchantment that exiles a non-land permanent when it enters the battlefield and leaves it exiled until it leaves the battlefield. So if somebody can blow up your enchantment, they can get their card back, but that doesn't happen incredibly often. It does happen more often in this draft format than most because there are so many enchantments in the format that main decking enchantment removal spells is something you can definitely do. But I do think Banishing Light is super powerful here. Mire's Grasp is also pretty great. It's 1 less mana to give a creature -3/-3. So for 1 more mana with Banishing Light, you're getting a much more flexible card because you can exile any non-land permanent, not just creatures, and it's going to get rid of any creature even if it's bigger than 3 toughness. But Mire's Grasp does have that benefit of being 1 less mana, plus if you're targeting something with 3 or less toughness, then that card's going to be in the grave, like no matter what. I'm still going to take Banishing Light here, though. I think it is probably the better card. Plus green-white is a pretty great color pair for having a lot of enchantments, which is what we're going to want with our Synergies Champion. So now we have Transcendent Envoy, and with the amount of auras in the set, I like this card a good amount. There are some auras that work as removal spells and some auras that work the traditional way where they just buff up your creature. So Transcendent Envoy is pretty solid with both of those. Rumbling Sentry is very filler. Forerunner's kind of filler, but it is an enchantment, so that's helpful for Synergies Champion. But I think I'm on Transcendent Envoy over anything else here. Venomous Aerophant and Scavenging Harpy are both fine black cards. Shoal Kraken's a pretty great one in blue. Riptide's fine there. Nothing that really makes me want to jump onto another color. Maybe the Shoal Kraken, because that would work well in a blue-green kind of enchantment-focused deck. Ooh, very happy with this pick 4. I really like Heliod's Pilgrim in the format. As I've been saying about the auras, they have a lot of different, pretty flexible abilities. So a card like Heliod's Pilgrim that can tutor up any aura you need from your deck can be quite the powerful tutor effect, and I'm just going to slam that card right now. Love me a Heliod's Pilgrim. So now we have Daybreak Chimera. This is good if we have a heavy focus on white and we're trying to be pretty aggressive, or Transcendent Envoy if we want to just keep taking a ton of enchantments. I think Daybreak Chimera is generally stronger. This card is just a very nice beater. The flyer with 3 power is pretty good at closing out some games. I feel like hopefully we can wheel some Transcendent Envoys a little more often. Probably less people that are interested in Transcendent Envoy than are interested in Daybreak Chimera. I think both are good here. Those are the main options. Nyxborn Colossus isn't particularly good. 6 mana, 6/7, sure, big stats for the mana cost, but no trample, no way to make sure you're getting that damage actually in or anything. Wow, yeah, white is looking wide open here. We see Omen of the Sun, Daybreak Chimera, and Leonin of the Lost Pride. These are all fine cards for aggressive white strategies. We're definitely going to be heavy into white here. We're kind of just hanging on to green for our Synergies Champion. Nothing massively good getting past to us in green, just like some okay filler. Might go with another Daybreak Chimera here. Not actually sure between these 3 which is the best. Maybe it's Omen of the Sun because it's going to work well with the champion, or just Leonin to get some 2-drop creatures to stay really aggressive, but I don't know. I'm going to take Daybreak Chimera. Maybe I'm overvaluing that card, but that card has beaten me up on many occasions. So now we have Mogus's Favor, which if we go into black is a really nice synergy with any Constellation cards since it has a cheap escape cost. So for only 3 mana and exiling 2 cards from your grave, you can keep recasting this from your grave. So that can give you a lot of Constellation triggers. But then there's also Acolyte of Affliction if we're speculating on black. which is just a pretty nice deal. Mill 2, then return a card from your graveyard to your hand. So 4 mana for a 2/3, draw a card of your choice. I think I'm going to take Acolyte of Affliction. If we're speculating on black, we're probably going to be still in green, or at least splashing green for this Setessan champion anyway. So don't love Setessan Skirmisher as far as 2 mana creatures go. I guess it would be okay in this deck because we are trying to get a high enchantment count, but it's really not exciting. I think I'd rather just take an Omen of the Sun here. We'll flash 1/1s, gain some life, get a Constellation trigger at instant speed. Now we have another Skirmisher. Again, we don't have any 2-drops yet, but I still think I'm more interested in just the better stat-lined 3 mana creatures here, like the Hyrax Tower Scout, just a 3 mana 3/3 to untap something when you play it. Yeah. I'm not really interested in Nyxborn Courser, even if I do have a good enchantment theme going. Alright, we are wheeling the Transcendent Envoys. They're just flying around the packs, so pretty happy I took Chimeras over them since we get to scoop them up nice and late right here. And now I'll take Annihila's Forerunner. That seems like a better 5-drop for this deck than the 5 mana Rumbling Sentry. Alright, definitely looks like we've got a nice green-white enchantments thing going here. Now we can start taking the very filler 2 mana creatures like the Skirmisher. There are backup plan if we don't manage to pick up better 2 mana creatures. We can still run them just to have a decent curve where we have stuff to do every turn of the game. I don't really like either of these, I think. These random equipments. Especially in green-white with 2 Transcendent Envoys, if I want something to buff my creatures, it's probably going to be auras, since they'll just synergize well by being enchantments already, like Commanding Presence here. This is a pretty powerful card. 4 mana to give +2/+2 first strike and the ability to create 1/1s when you're dealing combat damage to your opponent. So Commanding Presence is pretty sweet here, but there's also Heliod's Pilgrim, which is so good. I love Heliod's Pilgrim, but it is significantly weaker when you don't have the auras to grab with it, and currently we have 0 auras in the deck, so I'm actually kind of leaning towards Commanding Presence over Heliod's Pilgrim here, which is kind of weird to me. But I think those are the 2 best cards in this pack for us. The 3rd best is probably like Hero of the Pride, because it is actually a pretty solid 2-drop, because it does work well with auras when it gets targeted, plus that 2 toughness for the 2 mana card. That's where I want to be. I don't like 1 toughness 2 mana cards like Skirmisher. We do have a nice red rare here, but it is double red, so we'd really have to switch colors to get that going. I don't think that'll happen. I'm just going to take a Commanding Presence here. I could see a pretty good argument for Heliod's Pilgrim, though. That card is just that good, in my opinion. Alright, now this pack I can just scoop up a Heliod's Pilgrim, I think. I mean, we could still theoretically splash in black. We do have an Acolyte of Affliction, and we could scoop up a Mire's Grasp here. That would make our Heliod's Pilgrim a lot better, because now we have an aura that's a removal spell that we could tutor for. So it makes Heliod's Pilgrim significantly better, because currently our Heliod's Pilgrim is just a way to get our Commanding Presence into hand. Once we get a removal spell that's an aura, Heliod's Pilgrim gets a lot more useful, because it gets us 2 very different things. Removal spell for when we're on the back foot, or a powerful aura for when we're in the lead. That being said, we'd have to be 3 colors to do that. I don't know about that. I think I just want to take Heliod's Pilgrim here. Nessian Wanderer wouldn't be bad either. It's a solid 2-drop creature, and it's going to give us a good Constellation trigger to keep getting lands in our hand, but I am in love with the Heliod's Pilgrim. I'm just going to pick up a million of those. And we're just really hoping for cards like Dreadful Apathy. That's a white aura that makes it so a creature can't attack or block. Or Warbriar's Blessing, the green aura that lets you fight something when you play it. Just need 1 or 2 of those removal spell style auras, and those Heliod's Pilgrims are going to be phenomenal for us. So got a lot going on at 5 mana, although I guess a couple of those are Daybreak Chimeras. Kind of want to get just a nice little aggressive lean into the Lost Pride. Don't love the 1 toughness, but there's not too much else going on in this pack. There's a Plummet. There's the Green Omen, which is like a ramp spell, not super necessary. I guess this can pull out a black mana for our splash if we want to do that, which might not be the end of the world. I mean, then we can splash cards like this Final Death that are coming in. You know what? I might scoop up this Final Death and see if we can get all these Omen of the Hunts that are just wheeling around all over the place and do some splashing off of Omen of the Hunts. Another Heliod's Pilgrim here, or we have Dawn of Angel. We don't have enough auras for this card to work well, and even when you do, it's very, very narrow. you need a creature with an aura to die, and you need a creature with mana value 2 or less in your graveyard for this to do anything. So I don't love the Evangel. I think I'm going to take another Heliod's Pilgrim. We don't have like any auras yet, but I think these Omen of the Hunts have been flying around, so they should wheel. So if we do want to do the Omen of the Hunt splash black thing, we can pick them up later. Some filler 5 mana stuff, decent little 2 mana combat trick, a little green card draw, and then some filler black cards. Well, this pack's just not very good in general. There's like okay blue creatures for the flash deck. I guess Chimera is a little cheaper than 5. Sure, we've got a lot of auras, or not a lot of auras, a lot of enchantments, so maybe Unicorn at the top end of the curve to tap things down. Maybe that's a thing. Return to Nature is a pretty main deckable removal spell for blowing up enchantments or exiling a card in graveyard if your opponent has an escape card in their grave. Or we could just take a third Daybreak Chimera and just be all in on just slamming down flyers and closing the game out with those. Honestly, seems fine to me. Go for the Chimera. Oh, I love Nessie and Hornbeetle in the right deck. I don't know that this is the right deck, though. This is so good in the green-red deck where you have a lot of creatures with power 4 or greater. But in this deck, we only have one. We have 2 creatures with power 4 or greater, actually. So the Hornbeetle's not that likely to get bigger throughout the game. It's still a pretty sweet card. I mean, it's a 2-mana 2/2 at the worst-case scenario. We only have 3 2-mana cards right now. But Mystic Repeal's really cheap interaction, which is nice. I don't know. I'm going to go Hornbeetle here. Just because I love that card generally, but it doesn't actually look that good in this deck. We're probably supposed to just take Mystic Repeal out of that pack, but my love for Nessie and Hornbeetle is not going to let me pass that card. So now we can take an Omen of the Hunt or a Nylea's Forerunner, or a third Transcendent Envoy, but we don't have a lot of auras. I'm going to take this Omen of the Hunt here and make sure our black splash is happening. Oh yeah, and now we can take an Acolyte of Affliction number 2. For the black splash, and then we take another Omen of the Hunt. Ooh, but Nessie and Wanderer wield. Every time an enchantment enters the battlefield, we look at the top 3 cards, pick a land, put it into our hand. That also somewhat helps Splash. It doesn't help Splash as much as Omen of the Hunt, where we get to search for exactly the land we need, but it still does help us just keep pulling lands out of our deck to an extent. So I'm going to take Nessie and Wanderer there, which might be a little bit greedy here now that we're kind of committed to the black splash. I'm not going to main deck Plummet. But yeah, these Omen of the Hunts are going super late, so we have 2 now, which should be pretty good, but if we need another, we can probably even get a third in the last pack. Alright, ooh, wow, this is the kind of pack we want to open up here. We have 2 cards that are excellent for us. Siona, Captain of the Pyleas. Problem with this card is that she synergizes incredibly well with auras. She's going to pull an aura out of the top 7 cards of our library, and then whenever an aura becomes attached to a creature we control, we get another 1/1 soldier. So we do have the 1 aura right now, the Commanding Presence, but we need to just slam dunk auras if we take this card, whereas Erasta is just going to be very powerful no matter what. We don't have to put any work into Erasta being good. She's a 4-mana 3/5 reach, and whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery, we get another 1/2 spider with reach. So I'm going to take Erasta here. It would be awesome if we can wheel Siona, but it probably won't happen here considering we haven't seen a lot of green and white auras. That means somebody else is probably in our colors scooping up the good auras. Ooh, we have 3 Daybreak Chimeras for a pretty nice devotion to white, so Reverend Hoplite could actually potentially produce a lot of 1/1 soldiers. That could be pretty interesting in this deck. I'm probably going to pick that up here. Pious Wayfarer is solid if you have a lot of enchantments and you're a very, very aggressive deck here. I don't think we're aggressive enough to want the Wayfarer, but there are definitely decks that are. And then other than that, in this pack, there's like Flicker Fate, which is a lot of fun if you have Dreadful Apathies, but we don't have Dreadful Apathies. The aura that can pacify something or exile it. There's another Omen of the Hunt here that we will 100%, we're going to wheel that card and then slam it in the deck for the black splash. Alright. Pick 3 and everything has dried up. Unfortunate, just a Moss Viper and a Hyrax Tower Scout here. 1 uncommon and 1 common was taken out of this pack. It's a pretty weak pack, generally. Yeah, I guess we just take like a Moss Viper here, a little 1/1 Death Touch. trade up into large creatures later in the game, if need be. Now we see Setessan Training. That is another aura, and we only have one right now, so that's pretty important with 3 copies of Heliod's Pilgrim that we can actually draw cards off of them. So scoop up a Setessan Training here. Not the greatest card in the universe, but it's solid with Constellation cards, and we definitely have those. Now we've got another Transcendent Envoy for our no aura deck, or Flicker of Fate doesn't do too much here. Caryatid can get us the black source that we need, but it does die to cards like Mogi's Favor really easily. Omen of the Forge, it dies to all of the removal with just 1 toughness. That being said, I don't think we're making much use out of a 3rd Transcendent Envoy. 4th Daybreak Chimera, though. Just slam them all day long. Loathsome Chimera is actually pretty solid. This is a card that has low toughness, but it's okay that it has low toughness because it has that escape ability to just keep coming back from the grave. So that is an option here. Maybe that's the better option. But Quadruple Daybreak Chimera is just like funny. I don't know. I'm going with Quadruple Daybreak Chimera. Oh, Sentinel's Eyes is beautiful here. This is an excellent card for our deck. I'm so happy to see this. This is a very, very cheap aura that has a very cheap way to keep recasting it, to reassemble your Constellation triggers and all of that kind of stuff. Sentinel's Eyes is just perfect. I'm so happy with that. Cheap escape cost as well. Now we have Indomitable Will, another great aura, an instant speed combat trick style aura, but we have Rise to Glory off the Black Splash to return an aura and a creature from our grave to the battlefield. And that could be phenomenal. Are we even going for the Black Splash, though? Because it's going to make our deck a lot slower. It'll force us to have double Omen of the Hunt and some other stuff. I don't know. Rise to Glory is the strongest card, but if we do go for the Black Splash here, it does slow down the deck a chunk, but that's probably fine. There's a lot of slower decks in this format, at least compared to some recent draft formats. Now, I think I'm taking 3rd Omen of the Hunt. Don't know if I need 3. I mean, I'm going to have 4 black cards if we go for that splash. I'm just going to take the highest rarity card there because I'm not playing anything else out of that pack. So we will rare draft for Vault Progress. I'm not going to play any of these. Not going to play any of these. And let's get to the deck building. That ogre is making some angry noises. So we get to cut 12 cards out of here, which means we can very easily be just green-white if we want to make the deck building very simple. Now we do get to up the general card quality by pushing into black, because Acolyte of Afflictions and Rise to Glories are both very good 2-for-1 style spells, where we're getting 2 cards out of the one thing we cast. We're getting a 2/3 and whatever we want back to hand, or we're getting a creature and an aura at the price of just 1 card. Plus we get a solid removal spell, Final Death. So we get a lot of power by hedging into black, but it does slow down the deck quite a bit because we have to spend time casting spells like Omen of the Hunt to make sure we can hit that black source. Plus we have to deal with hitting the wrong colors with mana early game sometimes. That can slow us down as well. So I think to start here, I'm just going to see how the green-white deck looks, and if it looks like really bad, then I'll splash black, but if it looks pretty solid, I might just stick to green-white here. And if we're sticking to just green-white, we probably don't need the Caryatid. 22 creatures, yeah, we just got a bunch of creatures here. Nexus Wardens is probably okay, just because we don't have a ton of flying. I mean, we do have 4 Daybreak Chimeras, and we've got a big reach here. Nexus Wardens might not be the greatest thing ever, but it is a solid blocker. Probably cut a little bit of the 5 mana stuff. I mean, the Chimeras are probably 4 mana, because they'll cost 1 less, because we'll have some random white card out, Envoy or Pilgrim or Banishing Light, Own the Sun, any of that. We have 3 auras in the deck and 3 pilgrims. Probably, I mean, if we want to never draw a pilgrim that can't tutor for an aura, then we need to cut down to 2 pilgrims. But think I can risk that kind of downside. I don't know, I also do have a lot of 3 mana cards. We got 6 of them here. It could cut 1 Pilgrim. And then we cut 1 more card, maybe Relentless Pursuit. If we cut this, we don't have any other card draw in our deck. But we don't have any escape that cares about throwing a bunch of stuff in our grave. This doesn't really synergize in that way. Plus, obviously, we can't draw auras, can't draw enchantments off of this, I should say. So it's not going to help us hit any of our non-creature cards. We still have 18 creatures, though. So I probably am supposed to just cut 1 more creature and call it a day. Maybe we do cut the Nexus Wardens. We still only have 2 cards that work with the Horn Beetle, but it's still a 2-mana 2/2, and it's possible that we slap an aura onto something else to make it big enough to be 4 power to trigger the Horn Beetle. So I guess it's a little more than 2 cards that are big enough for the Horn Beetles. I don't know, maybe the Unicorn here. Just cut 1 more random creature out of this deck. The Envoys certainly aren't great, but I want to make sure I have enough 2 and 1 mana creatures to be playing spells in the early turns. And the fact that they are enchantment creatures is definitely nice, with the Setessan Champion, with the Nessian Wanderer. And they up our amount of white cards for Reverent Hoplite to spit out a lot of 1/1s, potentially. I think I am going to cut the Nexus Wardens at the end here. We have 4 Daybreak Chimeras in the sky, we have 2 Transcendent Envoys in the sky, and 1 Arasta, so we really don't need a 1/4 reach. You know, if we really want just like a really defensive body, then it would still be okay if we just want a 1/4 blocker, but I'm not sure that's massively necessary. We have some decent defensive bodies already with a 1/1 Death Toucher, a couple 1/3s, a 3/5. So hopefully we don't need that, and then this can just be the deck here. So that would be the green-white build of the deck. That's probably what I'm going to go with here for simplicity's sake, but we absolutely could go for the double Acolyte Rise to Glory splash with some Omen of the Hunts. We'd have to cut 6 cards out of here to get that to happen. And I think that deck just looks a lot more inconsistent to me. And the powerful cards that we're splashing, we didn't get like a massive amount of support for them, where Acolyte of Affliction does get a lot more powerful with escape cards. We didn't get any escape cards. We didn't get a lot of escape cards. I guess we have Sentinel's Eyes. And the Rise to Glory gets a lot more powerful with powerful auras, which we only have 1 powerful aura, and then 2 just like very early game auras. These are both good cards. They're just not like highly impactful auras to like return from the grave or anything. All right, well, I don't know about this deck. I don't know about this deck at all, but hopefully it'll do some good things. All right, so here is a final look at the deck. We went for a green-white Constellation theme this time around. So we've got a good amount of enchantment creatures like Transcendent Envoy, Arasta, Nylea's Forerunner, and some very powerful Constellation cards. If they're not immediately removed, Setessan Champion to draw us a card and get a counter every time an enchantment enters our battlefield, or Nessian Wanderer to let us pull lands out of the top of our library. That can be a pretty powerful card draw engine, even if it's only hitting lands. We've got a good chunk of flyers, 4 Daybreak Chimeras to try to close out the game in the sky, and some solid auras to buff them up and speed things up, like Commanding Presence, Setessan Training, and Sentinel's Eyes. So it looks like a pretty fun deck here. Doesn't look super powerful. We didn't get a ton of high impact cards. We only have 1 removal spell with our Banishing Light, and we only have 1 kind of bomb with Setessan Champion. Arasta's like solid. I wouldn't know if I would quite classify Arasta as a bomb, but I would definitely classify Setessan Champion as a bomb. So yeah, this seems like a pretty average kind of green-white deck here, nothing massively powerful. I think we were probably competing pretty hard in our colors because we did not see any Dreadful Apathies or Warbriar Blessings. Those are common aura-based removal spells in the format, so we were probably just drafting the same colors as some other people, just drafting different aspects of the color. But yeah, that's the deck we ended up with here, so we'll see how well how well we can work with it, see how far we can go as we head into the gameplay. Here we are now in game 1. On the play, I'm going to keep this hand. If I were on the draw, I might mulligan it because it is very slow. But luckily, since we're going first, we get to cast Omen of the Sea by the time, or Omen of the Sun by the time our opponent would attack us with their 2-mana creature. And looks like maybe no 2-mana card. Nice, so no 2-mana card from our opponent here. That means we're pretty free to just cast this Relentless Pursuit. Hope for the best. Come on, creatures and lands. It's all creatures and lands. So we'll take a Daybreak Chimera and we'll take our second forest here. Stampede Rider is the play from our opponent. That is a 2/3 trample. This is pretty awkward here because the only options we have are the champion with the great Constellation trigger or the enchantment, the only enchantment in hand. So if I play the enchantment, I'm not going to get the Constellation out of the Citizen champion, but if I play the Citizen champion, shields are down for it to just get blown up here by removal. I think I have to go for it here and just drop the Citizen champion and hope to get value. Because if I play defensively with Citizen champion and just go for Omen of the Sun this turn, then we aren't even that likely to ever draw a card off champion because we have no enchantments in hand right now anyway. Alright, so we're getting hit for 2 here. No way I'm taking this block. Many ways they could kill the Citizen champion. I think the most likely would be something like Omen of the Forge, just do an extra 2 damage to the champion after we block. So I can guarantee that I get some value off the champion if I just flash in Omen of the Sun here, but that does not make the most of my mana by a long shot. Most of my mana would be just dropping the Captivating Unicorn or the Daybreak Chimera. I think I'm going to go for the Captivating Unicorn, because we can cast the Chimera for cheaper later. Omen of the Forge. Are they going to double Omen of the Forge, the Citizen champion? Then the Citizen champion's pretty much done its job. I mean, it hasn't drawn us, like, multiple cards, but it's forced my opponent to spend 2 cards on our 1. So it's 2 for 1 to our opponent. So... sure, it didn't completely take over the game, but it forced our opponent to spend 2 of their removal spells, which is still very helpful. So, pretty big fan of that. Transcendent Envoy is the draw. That makes me a little sadder. So it's 4 mana to cast Chimera. It'll be 3 mana to cast Chimera if we drop Omen of the Sun. So we could drop Omen of the Sun and Daybreak Chimera here if we want. Yeah. Get a lot of white devotion for Reverent Hoplite. And when we drop Omen of the Sun, we tap down one of these Stampede Riders so that we can get in with our Captivating Unicorn. And then next turn we'll have 7 mana, which means we get to cast Transcendent Envoy and then Reverent Hoplite, and we'll get a ton of 1/1s. Plus, Unicorn is going to tap something down again. If they don't blow it up right now, they need a 2 mana way to do 4 damage. Don't feel like they would have that. Suppose we'll find out soon enough. Oh, they're just going to give it hexproof, so they don't have to take a hit here? Alright. Actually, pretty fine with that. Got the Starlit Mantle out of the way on just a tap trigger. Not a super impactful ability. Underworld Ragehound is kind of scary because of the escape ability, but they don't have any cards in grave yet, so we can just block with a 1/1. And then by the time they do have cards in grave, we need to be ready to deal with a 4/2, which I guess we'll just have a bunch of 1/1 tokens. We can double block it. Ooh, Sentinel's Eyes on our flyer seems very powerful here. If our opponent is out of removal, we're going to hope they are. One card in their hand. That was an excellent draw. This game is really just going to show off the power of the Daybreak Chimeras, hopefully. Where we're just slamming down a field of 1/1s on the ground and just getting in there in the sky. Just close it out with the unblockable flyers. Another Starlit Mantle, okay. I guess I will not tap the Stampede Rider, you got it. Just send in with the Daybreak Chimera. Don't want to get greedy with Hoplite and wait on it here for one more 1/1. By going for Transcendent Envoy this turn instead. I don't think so. I think I just want all my 1/1s right now to really disincentivize attacks from our opponent. That's 6 1/1s. Good God, Reverent Hoplite just putting in work. Scophos War Leader from our opponent. That's a 4/5. They can give Menace until end of turn by sacrificing a creature or an enchantment, which is pretty good with those Omens of the Forge if they don't want to scry with them. It also works with the Starlit Mantles if they don't need the additional power on the Stampede Rider. Alright. Do your thing, 1/1. I guess there wasn't a reason not to block with our 4/4 there, because they don't have any cards in hand. Just used to playing it cautious just in case. But yeah, they had 0 cards in hand. We should have just blocked with our Unicorn. Alright. Could have stopped in the upkeep to scry with Omen of the Sun, but I'm always lazy about those kind of effects. I wish, when you had an Omen or something, I wish Arena would just auto-stop and I don't have to click that on. So we're going to drop Transcendent Envoy. Get another flyer out here. The tapping doesn't really matter. We're not going to have a good attack into multiple 4/5 blockers here. They'll only have one 4/5 to block with, but still, that's more than enough to block a 4/4. Just getting another flyer out so we can speed up the clock once this is able to attack. So hidden, they'll be down to 12. 3 more hits will close it out for us. Opponent's got to get some pretty solid removal in the next 3 turns. Or a flyer of their own. So opponent is going to start scrying with the Omens of the Forge. One to the top and one to the bottom. They found something good. Good old Stampede Rider triggering itself. And pass turn it is. It's always interesting when these cards that are like, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, but it's like, what if it is the creature with power 4 or greater? Then it just makes itself better. Yeah, 3/3 on the ground's not going to change much here, so I'll scry these both to the bottom. And see what we draw into off the top. Just a land. Go ahead and keep that here. Just to scare my opponent. I don't think there's any reason to. There's nothing that they would be playing around with. Or playing around, period. Nothing that they would be like, oh, what if they have a removal spell? Because they're on the back foot here. They have to just go for whatever they've got, regardless of my cards in hand. But I don't have any draw spells, so there's not really a reason not to hold this land. I'm not going to end up with 2 lands in hand that I need both out in the same turn. That is one of those things. I used to always instinctually like hold the land, but I heard some tips from pro Magic players to stop doing that in certain decks, that people generally do that too often. Oh, these have trample. That's bad. Yeah, because those have trample, let's just put a 1/1 on the one that doesn't have trample. Drop a 4/4 on the 3/4. And then take 5, I guess. Yeah, and then we just crack back for lethal. That seems fine to me. But yeah, people generally hold lands in their hand and try to bluff things too often, because generally people aren't going to play around that kind of stuff that often to justify it, when you can actually hinder your own game plan a lot by doing that if you have like card draw spells in your deck, because then you can end up in a position where you top deck a card draw spell and you cast it to draw 2 or 3, and then because you spent mana on the card draw spell, then the spell that you draw into costs enough mana that you would need to play 2 lands in that one turn to cast it. So because you missed a land drop on an earlier turn by just holding a land in your hand for no reason, you can really really harm yourself by having played that bluff in an earlier turn. So there's the concession from our opponent. They just had a little combat trick there, not enough to kill me, so we get to swing back for lethal on the crackback. So 1-0 to start off this draft. Alright, opponent's on the play here. I don't love that. I don't love that we're going second and not playing anything till turn 3. But I think I have to just accept that, because this hand is pretty good once we hit turn 3. Ooh, and a Daybreak Chimera as well. Yeah, we have both of our colors. We've got a powerful amount of card draw thanks to Heliod's Pilgrim and Cetessan Training. And then we have the big game-ending kind of cards. Large Flyer, large Tramplers, stuff like that. Our opponent is the most aggressive color pair, red-white here, Boros, but luckily for us, they didn't play anything until turn 3. So now, do I Heliod's Pilgrim for the 1-mana aura for Nessian Wanderer? Because we really need to hit lands here. I think I do. I don't think I want the +2/+2 first strike here. I think I just want Sentinel's Eyes for a really cheap way to trigger Constellation. So that way next turn, if I don't draw land, then the play is to play our 2-mana 1/3, slap an aura onto it, so it's a 2/4, which is a very good blocker. And then also try to draw land out of the top 3 cards of our library, because we really need land here. We have a lot of 5-mana stuff. So here the Nyxborn is swinging in. It's going to hit us for 2 here, down to 18. And then Hero of the Games is coming to the board. So when either of these, the Hero of the Nyxborn or Hero of the Games, gets targeted by something, they will buff their entire field +1 power till the end of turn. It's not great for us. So we did draw a land here. I feel like the best play is still Nessian Wanderer and then an enchantment, but now it might be Nessian Wanderer, Cetessan Training. Yeah, and then just make Heliod's Pilgrim big enough to trade into one of these 2 toughness creatures, rather than buffing the Nessian Wanderer. So look at the top 3, we pick up at Plains, so we have our 5th mana, and we draw another land off the top. So we are set up now. We are, as you can see, the value plays that we have here are just working really well. They definitely have a trick to give their whole field +1/+0 here, which means this is probably going to be them using a trick to kill my hero, or my Heliod's Pilgrim. But unless they have 2 tricks, they don't kill the Nessian Wanderer that way. So I'm going to do this. Or they could choose to just use a trick on the soldier token, I guess, to kill the Nessian Wanderer and then have Pilgrim trade into the hero. The Nessian Wanderer's accomplished its job. I mean, we have 6 lands, 4 lands on board, 2 in hand, so If Nessian Wanderer dies, that's fine. But it looks like it was just a trick to kill the Heliod's Pilgrim here. And the Nessian Wanderer will survive. So 5 mana now. We can drop a 4/4. That 5/2 here, the game is getting pretty threatening. We could drop a Banishing Light, but then we're not playing another creature here. Banishing Light Sentinel's Eyes actually is kind of exciting, because then we have a 2/4 blocker for their 2/2, and they have nothing left on board. Problem is, we don't have Banishing Light anymore for a potentially bigger creature later. I feel like a 5/2 isn't that hard to deal with, just trading on the board. Although if we play a creature, it's only going to be one creature. Let's go, this seems weird, but I'm going to go Sentinel's Eyes on Nessian Wanderer, so it's big enough to trade into the hero of the games, if it comes down to that. And I can do that and cast Daybreak Chimera, so this way I can have 2 creatures on the board that are big enough to trade into hero of the games instead of just one. Because if I just tap out for a 4/4 or a 5/3, and then they blow that up, I can't block and kill hero of the games because all I have is a 1/3 to block. So this plays around removal. Yeah, and then if they don't blow up my Daybreak Chimera or my Nessian Wanderer, then I don't have to block with the other one. I think I'd rather keep Daybreak Chimera here, right? Because both of these are big enough to block the hero without dying, but not big enough to block a 4/4. So yeah, we do that. Nessian Wanderer again served its purpose. We have more than enough lands for pretty much the rest of this game. So now we have 6 mana, which isn't enough to cast 2 spells this turn. I guess we could cast Banishing Light and Relentless Pursuit. It's not enough to cast 2 creatures, though. Captivating Unicorn with the Sentinel's Eyes on it. Make it a 5/5 is actually pretty big. 5/5 can block Heroes of the Revel without dying, but they have that trigger. If they have any spells in hand, they're going to demolish my Unicorn anyway. So maybe we Sentinel's Eyes on the Chimera to start bashing in. Sure, I think I would rather have my Nylea's Forerunner end up trading into the Heroes of the Revel than my Daybreak Chimera or my Captivating Unicorn. So I think I play the Forerunner here, and then I put Sentinel's Eyes on Chimera to hit them with. I don't think I have anything that returns stuff from grave. No, I only have escape cards. So we exile whatever, it doesn't matter. And start hitting for 4 in the sky. And now our plan is to just throw this Nylea's Forerunner in front of the Heroes of the Revel and keep hitting for 4 in the sky. Yeah, Sentinel's Eyes is a phenomenal card. That card has done some work in these first 2 games. Escape is just a very powerful effect on such a cheap card. So our opponent has 3 cards in their hand now. If they have any tricks, they're pretty easy slam in with at least Heroes of the Revel. If they have good tricks, they can slam in with like everybody. But if they just have more creatures, starting to get things stabilized here. And that is the first card they play, just another creature, another hero of the games. I think Heroes of the Revel is big enough to actually cast our Banishing Light next turn if we're really scared. Don't think I need to hold on to Banishing Light anymore. Oh no, they're going to Iroas's Blessing to blow something up here, maybe? Looking at our board here, Final Flare. That is very good with a 1/1 Satyr token. It's pretty rough. Snap trade, easy trade. Down to a 2/2 and a 3/2 now. So Captivating Unicorn's big enough to block that stuff all day long. We could even put a Sentinel's Eyes on it to make it even more out of range. Or we could just play the Unicorn and an Envoy to have 2 blockers, but the Envoy's not big enough to block anything well. I think I'm going to play both of these, because if I Sentinel's Eyes Unicorn, it's still going to die to whatever random combat trick they play. Right, because Unicorn already doesn't die unless they get the trigger that gives the whole field +1/+0, and the odds of them having a spell that's going to target one of their creatures, but not give it at least 1 additional power is very low. And obviously, if they play something that's +1/+0 to the hero of the games, then they get the hero of the games trigger plus the thing that they played on it. That's already 5 power, which beats Sentinel's Eyes anyway. So now we just start drawing cards, get this Relentless Pursuit going. So Tessin Champion or Arasta. I'm going to go for the Champion here. That might be a little greedy because we're down to 17 cards now. We are going to start milling ourselves pretty bad, but it's going to be powerful here. It's going to start closing out this game. We can make a 5/5 Vigilance here. The only way they kill it is a double block. Actually cool with that. I think I'm cooler with that than putting this on our flyer. All right, now we're just turning the corner here and getting on the aggressive, hitting them down to 8 life. Dreamstalker Manticore is the play, just a 4/2. It'll do a damage to any target they want if they cast a spell during our turn. But they're just going to scoop it up. The Tessin Champion off the Relentless Pursuit. Too scary for them. Plus Sentinel's Eyes on the Unicorn and getting a 5/5 Vigilance here. Really put some pressure on them as well. So 2-0 here with this green-white enchantments deck. Here we are, round 3 on the play. We don't have any plays till turn 3, which is awkward. But again, we have both of our colors. We have Sentinel's Eyes. Just make a 4/4 Vigilance off of the Tower Scout. Not in love with the hand, but again, since we're on the play, not that likely that we get massively aggroed out here. Hateful Eidolon's a phenomenal turn 1 play, though. One of the best ones in the format. Incredibly good with Mire's Grasp and Mogis's Favor. That are removal spells and auras all in one. So, if you Mire's Grasp something after you have a Hateful Eidolon out, you draw a card. You basically just win the game on the spot, because you've just turned a common removal spell into a 2-for-1. Which is pretty disgusting. So, we gotta cross our fingers here that they don't have very good Hateful Eidolon combos, and they don't just, like, Mire's Grasp us out of the game. But if they do, this could be a quick loss here. They start getting to, yep. Gonna be unlikely to win this one. Yeah, it's a very bad start for us. I guess we can exile the Eidolon if we're worried about them having more Mire's Grasps. If they have more Mire's Grasps, we're also still probably already out of it, because then our Chimera doesn't do anything. Get the Chimera out so we get our White Devotion up, and the next turn we could play Sentinel's Eyes and Reverent Hoplite. Get a bunch of 1/1s. Verika's Libation, have us sack a creature. That'll get us. Guess we have to slow down the damage here and just exile this Cyclops. Reverent Hoplite's currently a 1/2 and a 1/1. That's definitely not the play. Maybe next turn it will be, because a 1/2 and a 1/1's big enough to block what they currently have on board, now that we got rid of the 4/4. Wow, Woe Strider as well. Phenomenal rare here. They can sack creatures to scry 1. They can also escape this from the grave as a 5/4 later. Yeah, this game was a predetermined loss here. There was no line we were going to beat that curve out with our starting hand. Stand by the keep, though. I don't think that hand was a mulligan. Our opponent just had the curve out against it. Very good start from our opponent. That'll put us to 2-1. Here we are in round 4 on the play. I don't think we can keep this on the play. We really need a 3rd mana. Sure, we've got all these Daybreak Chimeras, which is awesome, but we're not drawing any of our 1 or 2 mana cards these past couple games, unfortunately, which is a big issue. I mean, I guess we drew Sentinel's Eyes, but I'm talking about our 5 1 and 2 mana creatures, not our auras. We have to keep this one, but it's also pretty awkward. Probably get rid of Sentinel's Eyes this time, actually, because we just go turn 3 Hierarch Tower Scout, turn 4 Commanding Presence since we're on the play, and just hope that that can take it. Since we're on the play, we're getting things on the board first. Hopefully those things can just send us to victory. Definitely showing up the problems of aura-based decks these last couple games, where we've just drawn like one creature and a bunch of auras. But if you play like a 17 creature count like we do, that should be good enough. That's how much I play in almost any deck, even if I'm not running auras. But wow, do you get punished because the auras just turn into dead cards in games like this. I guess we can Banishing Light their Banishing Light. Might have to do that. Yeah, this is dumb, but I think I have to make sure I can actually have something on this board so I can start casting these auras, drawing cards, or get some action going, because otherwise, like, if I don't draw another white source, I'm not playing another creature this game. Plus, our opponent looks to be stuck on one color right now, so just getting a 5/5 first strike might be enough to actually put a ton of pressure on them, and that's what I'm going to do here. It's our best play. And this way we get some 1/1s, so even if they remove the Tower Scout, we'll have something to put the Cetessan Training onto to draw another card, try to hit our second planes. It's been a pretty awkward game for both players, it looks like. There's the blue source, they have hit their second color. They just missed one land drop here. Not terrible. Naiad of Hidden Coves, it'll be a 2/3 that makes their spells cost 1 less to cast during our turn. They're going to throw Wings of Hubris onto it if they don't have anything else to do with the 1 mana. Yep. Now it will have flying. There's the second white source, beautiful for this Daybreak Chimera. I could just slam Cetessan Training onto the Hierarch Tower Scout, get some trample. But I'm really okay with them just trumping with this Naiad right now. And I think I would rather spread out our threats. Because Tower Scout's already just a massive scary card that's going to draw removal from our opponent. So I'd rather just have like a 4/3 flying trample alongside it. Then make it a 6/5 first strike trample. Because again, this is already pulling any removal they have. Yeah, and I was going to say I would be okay with them chumping here, because we get to kill one of their legitimate cards. And if they don't chump, that means they probably have removal to slam onto it. But now there are 2 almost equally threatening cards on the board, and they can only kill one of them, fingers crossed. Ooh, and now Nylia's Forerunner is going to accomplish what that Cetessan Training was going to do. It's going to give the Hierarch Tower Scout trample, so even if they get chump blockers for it, we can keep spitting out 1/1 creatures from the combat damage we're dealing to our opponent. Excellent draw off of Cetessan Training. And they're just going to pass through the turn. We're going to go to combat and do all of our stuff here and see what kind of tricks they're going to use to blow up some of our board. Because if they don't, they're getting very close to dead. And if they do, then that will be their mana tapped out, so they can't just counter our Forerunner or counter our Cetessan Champion. So they're going to go for a Vexing Goal here. That puts 4 total power on their board. They can double block and kill the Chimera if they wish, but they take 7 in doing that. This is pretty fine. Maybe should have ordered that differently, but I think killing the card that just naturally has flying is fine. But I'm going to go for Cetessan Champion here. We don't need a high power creature on the board right now. They're at 3 life. We just need to be wide enough to kill them. And this is going to play a little better if they somehow survive, because then we can just start drawing cards and trying to keep up with their cards in hand with the Constellation triggers. So 3-1 it'll be, just an awkward start from our opponent. Stumbled on mana a little bit there. Didn't get their second color till turn 5, and it's just too late. So 3-1 as we head into round 5. Alright, we're on the play here. Turn 3 Cetessan Champion, turn 4 Heliod's Pilgrim into Sentinel's Eyes. Don't mind if I do. So we've got a great turn 3 play, a great turn 4, and a great turn 5. Really good curve here if our opponent doesn't interact. So if we're just gold fishing here, then this hand looks phenomenal. So alright, this is where we cross our fingers. No interaction. No interaction. No banishing light. One time. Well, here it is. Maybe. Reading Cetessan Champion. Entrancing Liar. Alright, that'll keep it tapped down, but we'll keep drawing cards off of it. So yeah, we do our turn 4. Heliod's Pilgrim, definitely don't tap it that way. We need our 1-mana aura here. We want our 1-mana aura here. Grab our Sentinel's Eyes. And if we put this onto Cetessan Champion, we hit them for 3 and force them to spend all of their mana next turn, shutting off the Cetessan Champion with the Liar. Actually seems fine. Even though they get to lock it down. It's gonna make it so they can't really cast anything else that turn. Alright, tap it down. Alright, we didn't put it on the Heliod's Pilgrim because the 2/3 isn't big enough to attack into the Leonin, and it is big enough to block it, so Heliod's Pilgrim's already just doing its job. So I can cast 2 flyers here or 1 5/3. I think I'd rather get 2 flyers because I don't like the idea of, oh, I can't get 2 flyers. I played a forest. Whoops. That was the wrong land to play. Now we just have to play the 5/3. I should have played planes into both of my flyers because, again, yeah, I don't like the idea of this 5/3 trading into their 3/1, even if it does trample over. It seems not great. Hyrax Tower Scout's actually a sick draw off of the Forerunner here. Or off of the Constellation trigger from the Forerunner hitting the board. Because that's going to untap our Cetessan Champion, which forces them to re-tap it down because the Cetessan Champion has Vigilance. So they're going to have to spend all their mana to tap it down again. So that's actually, yeah, that's a phenomenal draw. And that actually makes it so it might be, it might have magically panned out better that we played the Forerunner because now Cetessan Champion has trample when it gets in for this massive attack. So yeah, we go for the Tower Scout, and then we go for the Transcendent Envoy to make our champion 7 toughness so it can attack in easily. Go for the Forerunner here. Let it trade in. I don't think so. They have a trick in their hand? I don't know the 1-mana tricks in this format. Oh, yeah, that would get us either way. Actually, no, that wouldn't have got us if we put the damage on the Leonin first. I mean, it would kill Cetessan Champion either way, but we could have actually killed the Leonin because this specifically gives indestructible to enchanted or enchantment creatures. It doesn't give indestructible to either of them, so we actually could have killed the Leonin there if I knew the format better, but this is a format from 2 years ago that I'm playing for the 3rd time this week. So I definitely don't have all the combat tricks recognized. It's all good. Cetessan Champion still put in a mountain of work for us. It drew us like 3 or 4 cards. And now Sentinel's Eyes is in our graveyard, so we can recast that onto our flyer to just keep jamming in. I like Nessian Wanderer before I do anything else, I think. Do I like playing a Rasta here? I don't think so. I think I'd rather play flyers than big reach creatures right now. So let's drop the Nessian Wanderer. And then... I guess we don't have the cards engraved to do Sentinel's Eyes right now. So it doesn't matter that we Nessian Wanderer first. Yeah, let's get Transcendent Envoy in there. And I suppose Daybreak Chimera is probably going to get tapped down by the Liar. So they tap Envoy this turn. Yeah, Entrancing Liar is a pretty good card. Yeah, drop Chimera. Chimera gets tapped down next turn, so then we start attacking with Envoy. Luckily, our opponent doesn't really have attacks on us here. We're pretty equal on cards in hand right now, and I have the slightly bigger board state plus the ability to start sifting through a bunch of lands with my Nessian Wanderer, so I think I'm at the advantage here. But I don't think I'm as advantaged as I probably should be after I drew so many cards off Setessan Champion. Probably could have been in a better position here with some tighter plays. Especially if I knew the combat tricks in the format like Karamech's Blessing. Ooh, Sunmane Pegasus, that is rough. That is very rough. That will very quickly put my opponent in the lead. Although Daybreak Chimera will balance that right back out. So just kept the Enchanting Liar tapped because they don't have the mana to play the Pegasus and tap a thing. So we do get to attack with this Chimera here. Actually, Erasta, we're going to be blocking this Pegasus all day long. We'll be fine. So first and foremost, I shouldn't have played that land because I'm going to draw land off Wanderer. So we send in the Chimera. Then we drop another one plus a reach creature. Cool. Good old 2-mana 3/3 flyers. Let's go. That's what it's all about. So Entrancing Liar is like really good in a board stall, but I think our deck in general is very good in a board stall. Because we have a couple cards that are really good in a position like this. Obviously, our 2 more Daybreak Chimeras are phenomenal. But Commanding Presence is incredible to throw onto one of them. Banishing Light's really good here. But the number one, the card I'm really thinking about is the Reverent Hoplite, where our Devotion to White is so big here. Where if we drop a Reverent Hoplite, we're getting 7 1/1s on the board, and we can just start going wide and attacking with our whole field. So they're going to tap down one of these Chimeras, I'm assuming. Go to combat and see what's up. Omen of the Sun. To tap one down with Captivating Unicorn. Then Entrancing Liar to tap the other one. No Entrancing Liar. I guess they plan to Entrancing Liar Erasta. Hit us for 2 with life gain. I guess I just hold back. I guess even if I hold back, they can spend 3 to Liar down the Chimera, and then choose to untap the Enchanting Liar, and then spend 3 to tap down Erasta as well. So even if I hold back, they can get through our Erasta. Yeah, Entrancing Liar is really going to put in work here. A board stall like this. And they have a trick is what's going on. So when they were just baiting the attack. Wow. Opponent's got some straight gas coming up here. Sentinel's Eyes is active now though, which is good. If I cast it right now, I'm going to get locked in onto one of our creatures, but I am going to pull out a land with Nessian Wanderer, which makes it less likely we draw another next turn. We just keep digging through all our lands as often as possible. I think I'm going to hold off on Sentinel's Eyes till next turn. But I guess then they'll just Entrancing Liar whatever I target either way. Wow, the trick was an aura as well, which means that the Sun Main Pegasus gets a permanent buff to get extra life, and we don't get a 1/2 spider because it wasn't an instant, it was an aura. Indomitable Will really popping off there. It was a pretty great card in this format for sure. Dreadful Apathy. Opponent's got the deck. Now they can exile our Erastus so they don't have to worry about her triggers anymore. This is the matchup where I just get to feel jealous about their powerful white cards like Dreadful Apathy that I would have loved, but I don't think we saw like a single Dreadful Apathy all draft. Pretty cut. These are not the cards I'm looking for. They have Entrancing Lyre to tap down a 3-power creature, but they can't tap down Nylea's Forerunner. If we slap Sentinel's Eyes onto it, we attack in, get some damage in, kill either their Captivating Unicorn or 2 of their other creatures, and that gets us to start actually closing out this game, clearing out the board state here. So we can just whittle down their board state, then we can start attacking with all this other stuff. No lands in the top 3. Uh-oh. Those going to the bottom is pretty rough. So now... move to combat. See what happens. Entrancing Lyre on the Daybreak Chimera it is. Get the Nylea's Forerunner in there and see what kind of trades we're making. Lean in Glory Bearers. Lean in a 1/1. Alright, so we got 2 things out of the way. They have 3 blockers outside the Pegasus. But now that they've got the Lyre down again, they probably do have the mana to start just giving Vigilance Lifelink. It's not great. A couple more cards to Sentinel's Eyes again. Oh yeah, the Lean-In can exile cards from grave. The flavor text popping off. Obviously can't block here. Yikes. Just pass. $18 cards left. Brutal. This game's looking pretty over here. Might have been able to get into a lead playing a little tighter, but we just cannot draw action. And I don't think our opponent has missed in a while. Yeah, 1/1 on the ground isn't going to do anything for us. That's what we've got, though. So what we've got... We're just gonna combat trick for lethal here. Trancing Lyre on the Envoy. Buff Pegasus, get lethal. Jesus, yeah, that's a draw. That's just lethal. Attack all. Wow, yeah, that was a horrible last like 10 turns there for us. That was a rough one. I think our deck definitely could have gotten there. I don't know if we could have gotten there that game if we played better. Probably. If I played better in the earlier turns, like instead of dropping the 5-3, if I had just dropped those flyers earlier on, we could have got a better hold on the board state through the Lyre. But we drew really dead at the end there. That was rough. 3-2 it is as we head into round 6. Alright, here we are in round 6. 3-2 thus far. Pretty great keep this time. We actually have one of our 1 and 2 mana creatures. Drop our Moss Viper versus their Moss Viper. Let's go. Moss Viper trade. Let's go. Trade is probably a little better for them than us because they are on green-black, which means they probably have a lot of escape for some really good graveyard recursion value. Green-black's one of the most terrifying decks in this format, in my opinion, because they just have such late-game power, late-game potential as things progress. I think I actually want the first strike thing over the Sentinel's Eyes this game, with these flyers in hand to potentially do some scary stuff. Nessian Wanderer is the play, and they pass the turns. They're a little stuck on mana here. I think they were on the play. So we drop our Daybreak Chimera and get ready to suit it up. Keep our Heliod's Pilgrim to keep these ground troops from attacking us. Entrancing Lyre is the play. We can definitely make our Daybreak Chimera out of reach of that. The problem is our opponent's on green-black, and black has a ton of good removal in the format that will make sure this Chimera can die, even if we make it massive. I think I'm still going to do that here, though, but I would not be surprised if this just gets killed next turn. But we got to make them have it here. If they don't have the cheap enough removal to just get it off the board here, then it will close the game out real quickly. Venomous Aerophants, okay, that's not going to do it. If I remember correctly, the first removal spell they can get is Final Death, 5 mana to exile a creature. The first removal spell that's big enough to kill this Chimera. So we gotta hope they don't have one in hand here. Does it speed up the clock at all if we Cetizen Training? I mean, we hit for 6, we hit for 7. Nope, still takes 3 hits to kill them either way. But Cetizen Training lets us draw a card, so we might as well. And I'm going to put it on the Envoy because they're already going to Final Death Chimera if they draw into removal. A little awkward to hit Cetizen Champion after the auras, but it'll still be good depending on what we draw into. And it definitely looks threatening and blocks decently well here. That's not a removal spell, as far as I know. Each player mills 3, then they gain some life, then they return a creature or land from grave. Yeah, not a removal spell. The flyers are just going to keep chipping in. So far. I guess the Transcendent Envoy isn't. They have enough mana to lock it down with the Entrancing Lyre here. Still finish them off in 2 attacks, though. Looks like they've milled another removal spell, Warbriar Blessing, that would have worked for them with their Death Touch creature. Some rough mills for our opponent. Milling 2 removal spells here. Alright, they are going to Lyre down the Envoy. Reverent Hoplites? That's a big deal. That means we definitely just go wide for lethal next turn, even if they kill the Chimera. We just attack all next turn, and that should be it. We should have so many 1/1s. This Reverent Hoplite, this thing is just ending games every time. That was primarily the Daybreak Chimera there with the Commanding Presence on it, but that was a huge Reverent Hoplite. 4 and 2, so no matter what Getting solid value out of this event, but we'll see how much farther we can take this average green-white Constellation deck. Alright, here we are now in round 7 on the play with a pretty great hand. Setessan Champion can really pop off this game. Setessan Champion into Setessan Training, the flavor win, and then Nylea's Forerunner on turn 4. Definitely not going to train our Moss Viper here when we have a champion coming up. Just use it to hit for 1 for now. Playing against the white deck. White has some very powerful aggressive cards, as you've seen, even from our own deck. Cards like Daybreak Chimera. The 2-mana 3/1's pretty popular. But no turn to play here. Hopefully no Blessed Light from our opponent. Hopefully our Setessan Champion gets to stick around. Because if it does, this hand is explosive. Another white from our opponent, an Altar of the Pantheon, giving them a mana of any colors. That'll make sure they are set up for whatever they need. I'm going to play Setessan Training. First here, hope to hit another white source for these Daybreak Chimeras. And I think I'm not going to buff the champion, because again, champion's already going to draw removal. It's definitely the more important card. Ooh, we hit a 2-mana enchantment. Beautiful. Draw another card, swing even harder this turn. They're down to 13. Excellent draw there. And we hit the white source for the Daybreak Chimeras. But we're probably playing Nylea's Forerunner next turn if they don't have removal for Setessan Champion. They do have removal for Setessan Champion, so now we do get to start playing Chimeras if we want. I might still want to play Nylea's Forerunner. I mean, it puts the most power on the board. It's the most threatening card we have. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Just drop Nylea's Forerunner here. So they are a black-white deck here. They did use a black removal spell. And then Rumbling Sentries to play a 3/6 blocker. That'll shut off Nylea's Forerunner. Will not shut off the Moss Viper, though. So we'll send in with the Moss Viper and the Transcendent Envoy. If I can draw an aura, then Captivating Unicorn is going to be phenomenal. Or just an enchantment, I mean. So we'll send these 2 in. Get in for 3. They're down to 7. The Daybreak Chimeras are cheaper based on our white devotion, but we don't have another double white after the first one. But we could have theoretically cast 2 of them if we had 4 planes. That would have been awesome. But instead, we'll just go 1 Chimera, 1 Wanderer here. Add to our damage in the sky. Timuret Chosen from Death is pretty good. That can gain them some life by exiling some creatures from graves. There are no creatures in graves right now, though. They've only exiled our creature. And the first Iron game's also going to put some blockers down here, but we get to get in the sky. Ooh, Heliod's Pilgrim here. Is that enough to find lethal? With Transcendent Envoy's ability, I think it's not quite there, but it is very powerful because we get a commanding presence here. But I don't believe Commanding Presence actually kills them. We have 6 damage guaranteed in the sky. We have 3 attackers on the ground. They block all 3 of them. Right, even through the trample, they can block there, block there, block there. Yeah, we don't kill them this turn, so let's just send the sky damage in. Definitely finish them off next turn, though. There's a green source from our opponents. They're on green, black, and white. Another blocker on the ground. And a creature that can't block. All that's in their hand, so they scoop them up. The Flyers just jamming in this game after a explosive start from Setessan Champion. 5-2 it is. We're officially in the value. Always happy with 5-win runs. So super happy whatever happens from here on. Already better than I thought this deck would go. I thought this was a pretty average looking green-white enchantments deck. Thought this looked like probably like a 3-3 run here. So getting at least a 5-3 out of this, pretty nice in my opinion, because our deck is definitely lacking a little bit. We've got some weaker cards in here, and we don't have like a ton of great removal and stuff. Like, I would far prefer this Relentless Pursuit were a Dreadful Apathy or something like that. We've got some other pretty filler stuff like Tower Scout, Horn Beetle without anything to work with it. But yeah, the deck has really showed up these games. It's really been pretty impressive. Here we are, round 8, drawing the Setessan Champion again. Definitely can't mulligan any hand with that. We even have the turn 1 Moss Viper again. Get the ball rolling. Playing against a green-blue deck with a turn 2 Nessian Wanderer. I'm pretty okay getting that thing out of the way. Our opponent is not okay with losing that, though. So here's our Setessan Champion. We're really hoping they don't have Ichthyomorphosis here, but they play a Plains turn 3, so now we gotta hope they don't have Dreadful Apathy either. There's Eutropia, pretty scary card. I think that card's scary enough to just Banishing Light that immediately. Because every time they get a enchantment on the board, they get a +1/+1 counter of flying till end of turn. Pretty threatening, yeah. I think I'm gonna Banishing Light that. So they block the champion here. No blocks is the choice. Play around an instant just in case. Ooh, because Staggering Insight here can start drawing them cards as they hit us. So now we're going to start holding Moss Viper back. 1 damage to them is not worth them drawing cards repeatedly, so I'm going to hold Moss Viper back here, and because I'm holding Moss Viper back, I'm actually playing Setessan Training on the champion, weirdly enough. Even though it's putting all my eggs in one basket, Moss Viper is just here to block anyway. Well, that's a Sentinel's Eyes, so now, I mean, I guess we're just really suiting up the champion. And, potentially blocking with both. So they straight up just like need removal right now, or I think things are pretty closed out. If they hit removal though, we have drawn a lot of lands, so it is completely possible they can stabilize if they hit removal here. Just exile the Setessan Champion or something. We don't have much action after that. Calyx is removal as well as a massive threat. That could very well close it out here. Ooh, I don't know about... Oh, I guess that was the only enchantment they had on board. That's the only way they could remove it. So if we can ever kill Nessian Wanderer, we'll get our... whatever it is back. Setessan Champion. So I guess we can attack Calyx with Moss Viper, and they can't really block. But then we can't block the Nessian Wanderer. We need to be able to block the Wanderer. We're just on pass turn here. Yeah, this is... We got a couple dead draws this game. Just a couple of them. Opponent gets to draw every turn off Calyx. I forgot that's a thing. Probably should have attacked Calyx, I guess. I mean, either way, they're drawing an extra card every turn. Right? Like, we hit Calyx and kill it, and then they don't get to draw off Calyx's ability, but then they do get to draw off Nessian Wanderer's ability. Yeah, I guess it was Moss Viper into Calyx last turn. Wow. Arena hates me this game. I guess I can just do the thing again. If they don't have a counter spell or removal spell, just get rid of Calyx this time. First Strike Death Touch is pretty big if they don't have removal. They do.
Don't tempt fate.
And it's absolutely explosive because it blows up our Banishing Light as well. If I weren't recording, I would have conceded by now. This was the most brutal switcheroo I think I've ever seen.
Look skyward and receive the gifts of the gods.
Ooh, Setessan Champion with like 5 counters on it? Would be a shame if Calyx into the double 2-for-1 removal spell, blow up Banishing Light and your Commanding Presence. And also every card you drew off of the Setessan Champion doesn't actually do anything. We get one card here. Yeah, there's nothing that puts things back in our favor after Calyx went off. All right, well, pretty huge misplay not attacking Calyx the turn they played it, but that was just another game that was basically a guaranteed loss there with how the draws lined up at the end, ours versus theirs. Because even if we sniped Calyx there, they got the 2-for-1 removal there, bring back Eutropia, and they still have 7 cards in hand where we had basically 0 with what was in our hand. Really rough way to end it, but a little bit of divine justice there. We did draw our Setessan champion a lot, so fair that we run up against the Calyx there. So again, I think the deck played a lot better than it looked. I don't think I played super well today, and we still made it to 5-3. I think some of the games where I saw the most obvious misplays, like the last game where our opponent played Calyx, and that earlier game where I played Nylia's Forerunner instead of a couple flyers, I think those games we were probably going to lose anyway. So I don't think I could have done much better than 5-3 with this. But I definitely played poorly. I definitely could have done better in those individual games, even if I still lost in the end. Could have gotten a couple more turns out of them. Either way, this was a pretty fun deck, and definitely a lot of the cards played better than I thought. Reverend Hoplite, I was kind of like, all right, I mean, we're pretty heaven to white. That should be pretty good. And then just consistently getting a lot of cards out. There was that one game that we drew, and it was only going to be a 1-2 and a 1-1. That was really bad. But the games where it popped off, it really popped off. The Daybreak Chimeras were phenomenal. Just flying beat sticks are great. And the Devotion trigger was not super hard to make these just 4-mana 3/3 flyers, which is a good deal. And sometimes we even got them cheaper because after you get your first Chimera out, the next one's only 3 mana, even if you have no other white cards. So that was great. Captivating Unicorn actually put in work with that Constellation trigger with the amount of enchantments we have, so that was good. Forerunner was pretty medium. The 3 toughness was pretty brutal. Erasta never got to do anything because I think she just kept getting removed. I don't know if that's her fault. The Pilgrims were great, Champion was great, Tower Scout was solid, Wanderer was solid. I don't think we ever played the Horn Beetle, so I don't know about that one. But the Transcendent Envoys were great as well, just because of the enchantment subtype for our Constellation triggers. Pretty much everything in the deck did its job and did it pretty well for cards that I considered pretty filler when I picked them. I think the most filler card, the most underperforming card here was Relentless Pursuit, kind of the green divination where you get to draw 2 cards. The problem with this card is that you have to choose specifically a creature and land. So when you're an enchantment heavy deck, you're not getting able to pick up any auras. Plus, you're never going to draw 2 spells with this, which you can do sometimes off divination. You're always going to draw 1 land and 1 spell, so it's never going to really feel like you did a massive draw 2 effect unless you really needed that land. So didn't love Relentless Pursuit here. It's definitely better when you have a lot of escape cards that filling your graveyard helps out with. So other than that, yeah, everything else in the deck, it popped off in its own right, did its own thing. Nothing in here was super underperforming. Actually, Omen of the Sun didn't really do much of anything, but it also didn't show up that often, so I don't know about that. But yeah, Omen of the Sun and Relentless Pursuit were probably my least favorite cards in this deck. Forerunner, I wasn't massively happy with it just because of that low toughness. Everything else, though, I think actually worked pretty well. So super solid deck there. We get a nice 5-3 run. Can't be too unhappy with that, getting 1,600 gems and 4 packs out of this event. So we are up in value. Good stuff all around. But that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That'll let the YouTube algorithm know to send some more of these videos in your notification feeds and, in your recommended feeds. But other than that, as always, I'd just like to thank you again for watching, and I will see you all again soon for some more Magic Arena.